Hey, it's Saul with another video, and today I'm going to talk about and just kind of react to some of the answers. Well, I guess all of the answers that had come out from today's most recent developer Q&A with Josh Allen, aka Lore, and Ian Hazzikostas, the game director for the World of Warcraft. Just like they did, I'm going to get a couple of big things out of the way. If you didn't know already, the Battle for Azeroth pre-order is on right now. Well, more like kind of, because you still need to get through the queue first. I'm seeing it at like 3,000-4,000 people, 15-hour waits. It's like, wow, if you guys were really trying to rush, well, you kind of missed out. So we got pre-orders, we have allied races, and this is like the best time for me to be wrong, right? Because I had thought that allied races were going to come out like a little further down the line. I thought there was going to be more that was going to happen. But here we are. Cool. There's also the expected release date for Battle for Azeroth that's going to come on September 21st of this year, which is like a Friday. And that's kind of weird. I mean, first, I'm glad that I'm wrong. I thought it was going to come out sometime in October, so that's very cool. And keep in mind that when they announced the Legion expansion, they had a certain release time frame. But what had happened is that they released it a little bit before that, so it was like a couple weeks prior, I believe. So if the expected release date is going to be no later than September 21st, then it might come out a little bit earlier. Predictably, I would think that it would come out on a Tuesday. So it could come out as soon as late August on the 28th, or it could be September 4th, 11th, 18th, or it could be even the 21st. So with that out of the way, you could probably just go to the next video because the Q&A, the usual thing, the Q&A kind of sucked. There wasn't a whole lot to glean out of this. It was the same easy questions and answers, nothing super controversial. There are a couple things that you might learn, but just as always, the Q&As are meant for people who don't look at data-mined information, who aren't part of the groups that do all the speculating and make predictions and that sort of thing. But with that said, I'm going to go over every question that was presented, I'm going to go over the responses, and I'm going to share my thoughts. Anyway, here we go. How allied races unlock, that was pretty self-explanatory. In fact, once you do the pre-order and go through all the finagling with having to log in and log out and pick up the quest and so on and so forth, you go to your allied embassy, whether it's your Horde or Alliance base. Once you get there, it'll straight up tell you whether or not you fulfilled the requirements. Fortunately, and yeah, I thought it was clarified earlier, but they let everyone know now that the requirements in order to unlock these quest lines to get the allied races are account-wide. So thank goodness, although at least in my case, since I have no Alliance characters, in order to unlock the Alliance allied races, I'll need to make a max level character because, of course, how am I going to get to that point in the story without having a max level character? Will we get our extra character slots with the pre-order? That was something that I had talked about a number of times, and I was like, oh man, we don't even see anything about like hotfixes or anything that will make these slots available. Is it testable? What's going on? It looks like it's going to be hotfixed at some point in time, hopefully sooner rather than later. But hey, if you're still waiting to even do the pre-order, then you're not really missing out on much, are you? So the whole thing about allied races and the racials that they have, it is a pretty legitimate concern that it looks like they're trying to address with trying to make these sorts of powers, trying to make these racial abilities, well, they're trying to nerf them. If you haven't seen in some of the data mined information for Battle for Azeroth, some of these more powerful racials, such as the Arcane Torrent ability that Blood Elves have, that's gone from a 2-minute to, I believe, a 3-minute cooldown. So that's one step in the right direction from something that Ian identified as an ability that just transforms gameplay. It creates tactics that he says that otherwise aren't possible on other comps, such as Alliance races who don't happen to have access to Arcane Torrent. I think it's too late to just straight up take out the ability. I think nerfing it is one way to go about it, but at least with regards to the overall approach of creating races at all, my expectation in order to create a sort of parity, balance between all these races, is that the kinds of racial things, the features that make each race feel unique, it ought to be for the most part cosmetic, the kind of things that they can wear, or some of the racial traits, they should be more like roleplay elements, or strictly utility stuff like popping open a mailbox or an auctioneer or something like that. The hope, and there is a kind of expectation at this point, that we're going to see Draenor orcs as a possible allied race. Although I do want to kind of clarify, like, do they mean Draenor as in, you know, the Draenor of Warlords of Draenor, or Draenor as, hey, this is Outland, but you know, we're gonna call it Draenor out of respect to the people that live there. Chances are it's the former, although it does kind of make me wonder what the hell would make, you know, the orcs over at Draenor want to do anything other than just hang out. They have their own freaking planet that they can chill on. This is a debatable thing on making allied races rep or achievement locked, or just having obstacles in the way for people to overcome in order to unlock these. The way I see it, allied races are more like a bonus. It's not like you have to play as an allied race in order to get the full and bestest experience in the World of Warcraft. It's not like playing an allied race will make the game easier by any means. In fact, it's more like a prestige thing, a symbol of your veteran status as a World of Warcraft player. One part of their answer is that the road to unlock these allied races is paved with story and lore and shouldn't be something that is just simply unlocked. Paraphrasing what they had said, the Horde and Alliance are exclusive clubs, you know, not just anyone can get in. Allied races add another element into the mix. I can get into more of that, but then it would just be a debate of opinion. In the end, this is what Blizzard just designed. We can write all sorts of narratives around it, like, oh, this is a way to make players want to throw down money for boosts or to prolong playtime or whatever. We can get into all sorts of that stuff and we would be both right and wrong. In the end, this is just what Blizzard decided to go with. This one seemed like a no-brainer. I mean, just like with the allied races that we're experiencing now, a big part of it was experiencing the entire story. By the way, we don't know what these requirements are, but if it's anything like we're experiencing now, there is a pretty good chance that we'll be able to play as these allied races, you know, like pretty early into the expansion, maybe midway. If anything, this tells us story-wise that the Dark Iron and the Zandalar, they won't immediately join the Alliance or Horde just because, oh, well, you know, everyone else is doing it, we might as well do it too. There's going to be a story and a narrative drawn around it. The discrepancy, though, like, is that the Zandalar are a new race, kind of, you know, kind of, sort of, all right? Just level with me here. This is a race that is very closely related to Battle for Azeroth, whereas the Dark Iron, not so much. You know, they've been around for a while, and we have, at least as of yet, seen a Dark Iron story that's revolving very closely around this Battle for Azeroth storyline. That's kind of why my expectation is that at some point, and this is all total speculation that pretty much comes straight out of my ass, is that if the Horde are in fact going to get the Draenor clans to join them, basically Kul'Tiras is going to join the Alliance, you know, outright, and we'll be able to play as some of those races and those cool models. This whole solo queue thing has me fascinated, but I think that I think it's been kind of a broken record that Ian has been saying with regards as to why they're not doing solo queues. But at least to me, it makes sense. And you know, by the way, there were a lot of PvP questions that were answered during this Q&A. I think too many. And at the same time, they didn't answer the thing about flying. I simply agree with what Ian has to say, and I admit that I probably lack perspective because I'm not very big on PvP anyway. I think the more prevalent thing to overcome is, why do people want solo queue anyway? And a lot of it is because it's too difficult to get a team together on their own. I think that if there are better community tools that allow people to create their teams, such as raid teams, raided battleground teams, guilds, and so on and so forth, that this problem wouldn't be solved necessarily, but it would be mitigated greatly. It's partially why, you know, some of my hopes are put onto this new community tool that's coming out for Battle for Azeroth, and my hopes aren't that high because we haven't heard anything about it yet. And in this regard, for me, no news is not good news, but I think solo queue is a solution that does not, unfortunately, solve the underlying problem. I thought that was kind of funny. I think I'll try it out, just, you know, for the hell of it. I was talking about this a little earlier about how the prestige system just kind of sucked. I mean, it was meant to turn out one way where you level up and then you prestige down, you got to get your skills back again. And, you know, for whatever reason that Blizzard had said, it just didn't work. So they removed that, which pretty much takes the it takes the teeth out of the system altogether. I also think that the reward system from expansions past it's either a bit too binary or just way too grindy. And I'm talking about, you know, the very old honor encounter system from classic WoW. A currency-based system, which is what we had experienced the longest. At the same time, that feels, like I said, it feels too binary. You just kind of keep going. The only thing that really threw a wrench in things was that you had a rating requirement, and that was cool. But more than anything, I just want the high-level overview of the future of PvP in Battle for Azeroth to be just about the joy of fighting. Part of it's going to have to do with gaining power. Another part is going to have to do with gaining rewards. Another is going to have to do with just gaining the prestige, like achievements and titles, cosmetic stuff. I can't begin to think of a solution as to what'll make players happy. Because again, I don't really have a perspective, but I do at least understand that, well, it looks like Blizzard does want to work on this a lot more. Personally, I'm not a fan of talents, period. I think talents are just boring. It's just a, click one for whatever situation and then you're good to go. I did hope that there would have been like a huge talent overhaul once again, where they just kind of mucked everything around. Like they totally changed the system once again into something that was a bit more interesting and meaningful, and it gave more consequence to your choices. Unfortunately, that wasn't the way to go. And although yay, Blizzard is going to try to work on trying to create more interesting talents and choices and whatnot. I think that the system of just choosing talents the way that it is right now, I think it just sets them up for failure. I think it just sets them up that people are just going to choose the best thing for the situation and ignore it, and ignore the ones that suck. I think that this was either a wasted opportunity or one where they purposefully dodged the question as to whether or not they're going to do anything about, the whole PvP mode, like what's going to happen in world PvP. Again, this is another wasted opportunity. They at least clarified as to how world PvP is going to work. With the whole toggle, you do this, and from the sounds of it, they said that you are going to a capital city, so that means Orgrimmar or Stormwind. It's not going to be wherever you are in Zandalar and Kul'Tiras. It's not going to be Dalaran or Shattrath, or it's not going to be an inn in some obscure place. Yeah, pretty sure that something like this ain't going to happen. But they did clarify that there are going to be two kinds of realms, a roleplay realm and a not roleplay realm. So for those of you who enjoy the ambiance of not having to deal with sharding and cross-realm zones and things like that, then cool. RP servers are going to be the place to be. Just play nice with the community there if that's not something you're interested in. The answer for this didn't bode very well, and they didn't seem excited to talk about like the AI or anything like that, and they didn't answer any questions with regards to that. So maybe islands haven't been tested yet. If it is what it is and the primary reward from these island expeditions is Azerites, I do plan on doing a video where I try to kind of balance all the different game modes that we'll be juggling in Battle for Azeroth, because there's going to be more to do than ever. The question, as always, is having all these things to do, what do we care about? What are going to be the things that are worth our time or the most efficient use of our time? There's kind of a difference there. But from the sounds of things, it looks like unless the digestion of these island expeditions is relatively short, something like this might just kind of fall off people's radar. People will be more interested in getting gear, farming high keystones, and chances are pretty good that Azerite is going to be something that you get automatically anyway. How are these island expeditions going to fit in? It remains to be seen. I recall from somebody that they thought, oh, you know what, maybe Warfront is going to be kind of a top-down thing where you're looking down and you're clicking on units, or you're kind of like one person might be overwatching it and they're barking orders to everyone as to, oh my god, enemies are coming from over here or over there, and clearly that's not the case. Just like Island Expeditions, though, I'm a little anxious as to where this is going to fit in a player's game time. At the very least, though, at least according to the data mine information, it looks like there are going to be some tangible, cosmetic rewards at the very least. So that'll be something to motivate players to go in. I really hope that they would have answered the question about offline progression, but oh well. I think this question was already answered. Alliance and Horde are going to, for the most part, level on their own respective islands. So it's going to be weird. We're not going to be traveling from zone to zone, although the idea of zones feels like it's becoming less and less of a thing, especially when it comes to scaling levels. But after the leveling experience, it looks like we're going to be hopping between continents in order to do daily things. I think that's a little bit refreshing, that your leveling experience is going to be unique per faction, so it gives some value from playing both factions. At the same time, the endgame experience will start off with you venturing into the unknown. I think that's kind of neat. I think this question produced the longest answer for this Q&A, and it's important because it talked about the whole bring the player, not the class thing. The neat and the curious thing is that Blizzard is taking an approach that is very anti-class stacking. I'd spoken earlier in a previous video about the different buffs that each of the classes are going to bring, and that is a very anti-class stacking thing, although it's also kind of anti bring the player, not the class sort of thing. It's going to be very interesting and probably frustrating to see the development process of Biffa and how class balance is going to play in, especially because we're not going to really see that until the last couple of months before the expansion launches, because they're going to be working on more important stuff first, like making sure that, you know, everything works. So we're going to see several stages of development where first it's going to be, you know, well, maybe in no particular order, we're going to see the different class buffs that are going to play in. We're going to see the different kinds of utilities that each of the classes are going to bring, and we're probably going to see some things maybe taken away or nerfed and shuffled around. So get ready to get mad. The idea that, of course, Blizzard is shooting for is that when it comes to small group, you know, whether it's small group content or mythic raiding, that your class is going to feel good being there. That your raid leader, your group leader is going to be like, okay, cool, I brought this particular class because this class brings this and this and this, on top of the raid buff that you might automatically give. I thought this was a pretty interesting question because it kind of highlights the difference between, like let's take a paladin for example. Divine Shield is a class-wide thing and it helps define the paladin as to who they are. However, Devotion Aura, which used to be a protection paladin thing, became just a holy paladin thing, which was a raid-wide cooldown to reduce everyone's damage taken. I think there are a lot of opportunities to differentiate classes, but at the same time, you know, keep the identity that they have. And I think that's possible through things like, well, they were through like legendaries and artifact weapons, but in Battle for Azeroth, you're still going to have access to things like talents and Azeroth gear. At the development level, it's going to be a little interesting to see just what gets shuffled around for the sake of attaining this kind of paradigm. No doubt that there's going to be a lot of salt when players find that, you know, their class's respects are getting stuff taken away. This kind of follows from the previous question because we were talking about, you know, artifacts and legendaries and things like that. And so now those platforms of customization, well, kind of customization, those platforms are going away. We are going to get Azeroth gear. We still have talent and so on, but we kind of lose a little bit of it because we used to have all these things that I talked about, as well as major glyphs. That used to be a thing, and then that was kind of shuffled around to legendaries, and now that's gone. So it feels like there is maybe a little bit less wiggle room for developers to finagle with when it comes to trying to preserve some of these talents and traits and abilities that we players are used to. So what's going to happen is, predictably, we're going to get some of these abilities baseline. Some of these things are going to be folded into talents, or maybe they're going to replace talents that were no longer interesting. Please get rid of Retribution Aura. It freaking sucks, by the way. So it's probably going to go along that vein. Even though they answered this question, I don't think it was to the OP's satisfaction. From the sounds of it, it looks like in order to play as a good survival hunter, it involves a pretty high skill level and a lot of gear. Ian's answer was more like class philosophy, class identity, that sort of thing, where, you know, maybe we changed survival hunters too much and so on and so forth. So I think they were kind of like, oh, yeah, passing like 2 ships in the night, that sort of thing. With that said, I did kind of like what they had to say, that survival hunters are going to be more like a hybrid mid-ranged class, kind of sort of. For the most part, they're still going to play as a melee class, but they are going to have a lot more ranged tools in order to feel viable, like at range if they needed to be. And thankfully, they ended it with this, with them kind of sort of nerfing Titan Forging, or at least kind of giving their plans as to what they want to do with it. I do think it's a very good thing that they are not going to apply Titan Forging warforging to weapons. Keeping warforging is, whatever. But while I want to say that this is one step in the right direction, this is more like a half step that's still going in the wrong direction, but at least it's not, you know what I mean? So unless I missed the question, I believe that is it. Of course, you can take a look at the cliff notes on a number of fan sites, but I'm happy that you stuck around to listen to what I had to say. If you have questions or opinions on any of this stuff, please feel free to leave a few words in a comment below. Thanks for watching, and support the channel with a like, or be a patron, or subscribe for more of this and all things World of Warcraft. I'm going to head out and mess with this Nightborn Warlock that I made, and I'll see you in the next video. Until then, stay safe, stay happy, and stay breezy.